Hi everyone. Welcome back to the London Premier League show. Um, Time for another episode, and we'll go straight into it. We'll start off with our guest, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Not bad.
Well, Arsenal fan, top of the league. So yeah, what's your thoughts on sort of Arsenal season so far, and how long do you think they can challenge City? Do you think they can win the league?
I wouldn't say they could win it. I think they're always going to be like an injury to a party or like a Saka away from having a dip. But I mean, the way things are going, they say take it one game at a time. They entertain, the fans are happy. We're all happy with the football. Obviously, you had the one blip against Man United where we were the better team but still lost. It happens. But I think if they can stay top going into the World Cup, be happy with that. And then kick on after in January, get a couple of players in that can be like a squad filler in case someone does get injured. And yeah, I think we're playing for second place. I still think Man City will like kick on and take it from us. But yeah, man, I think top four, even if we finish fourth, I know people like you're first at this point. Just get back in the Champions League would be enough for me.
Okay, and obviously you had the rescheduled Europa League game a couple weeks ago, and that sort of stopped you playing the Man City game in midweek. Are you happy to play them twice next year, or did you want to play them at that moment?
No, I think because we come off the back of that was after beating Tottenham, beating Liverpool, but you can see like after those couple of games how tired the players looked, and like especially with the Europa League midweek and Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, like you see that I think they've said 8 players have played every game, like
Yeah.
start every Prem game, and then most of them start again on the Thursday. I think just go there, play Man City twice next year, so we don't have to worry about them now. Who knows with like what's coming up? They could have players get injured, and yeah, if we kick on next year, so I'm actually quite happy that we don't have them this year and that we've got to wait to play them. We can still build up points. Might even have a gap in between the games, so points are there.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said. Arsenal, I'm surprised. I would never have. I know James, to be fair, I do remember in his summer predictions, I do remember him calling Arsenal his dark horses this season. I do remember that. So it looks like he's got
As
that spot
always.
on.
As
Um,
always, I've done it about the last 2 or 3 seasons. So it's about time
yeah,
it's
he's
paid
put
off.
Arsenal his dark, but this time he looks like he's got it right. But no, I've
But
been very
I
impressed
just
with
think,
Arsenal.
like, Sion, if I can jump in and just ask Mike a question, as we've got
Yep.
an Arsenal fan with us, do you think there's a lot of Arsenal fans sort of eating humble pie because they wanted Arteta out like a year ago or something? And he was very clear on like being patient and trusting the process and all that. But so do you think there's a lot of Arsenal fans putting their hands up and saying, actually, do you know what? We're glad we didn't get rid of him in the end.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm probably one of them as well. Not that I wanted him out, but I didn't want him to come in the first place. I felt after Emery went, they needed someone who actually had experience of managing in the top league. So when they went and got him in, I said, okay, like you obviously back the manager because that's who they've chosen. So like I say as well when we talk with our friends, like I'll be the first to admit I didn't want him there, and like yeah, I like believe him now for what he's doing and backing that. So I think there are loads of
Yeah, because for me, because it's an interesting point, because I know Rasamfam's going to talk about it, and I might as well get it out of the way that, like, yes, Man United had a lucky win last weekend on a Sunday because of their goalkeeper. But, like, do you think Man United could learn lessons from what Arsenal have done with Arteta and stayed patient with Arteta? That they could have done that with one or two previous managers with United? And do you think United, Rasamfam, will be patient like Arsenal have been with their current manager at Man United?
I always thought that they should have given David Moyes more time when they had him.
Well,
He
he's just
didn't.
quality. He's just quality. It's
I,
David
I
Moyes.
I do think they'll give Ten Hag time though. Like I've seen some shit because you know what I've seen with sort of previous managers, they sort of I feel like deep down they're not really the ones. They obviously they're picking the team, but I feel like there's certain players they must include. But Ten Hag seems to like he's not afraid to drop big names. The Ronaldos, obviously the Maguire being the captain. Maguire was undroppable under Oli. Like I feel like Oli's just sort of felt like lucky to be there, obviously being a club legend, and he sort of wanted to do whatever it took to stay in the job as long as possible. But I think Ten Hag, he's sort of his own man, and he's not afraid. I don't think he's afraid of the owners. Like he'll make decisions that go against them without fearing too much. I do think they'll give him time. If like that's what I think, but I don't know what Rosanfan thinks.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, Ten Hag has completely come in and changed the dynamic of the club. You know, it's completely probably gone against what the owners want. You know, when you have a star player that you sign for 80 mil and he's not playing, it doesn't really give off a good look for the owners. You know, this questions will be raised. Wan Bissaka, another signing under Ole, 60 million, I think. Now talks are being ready for him to leave in the January transfer window. Barely seen him play a minute this season. I think it's 4 minutes against Liverpool this season. Other than that, it's always been Dalot on right back, and yeah, so it's looking good. I think this is one of the only times where I would say back the manager and trust the process. It does look good, you know. The signings he's made has not been any like necessarily big signings, but they've been good signings and key signings. Martinez, I'll be honest, I don't know much about him. I was very skeptical, you know, 5'9", not really a defender, the heights that you want, to be honest. But, you know, he's proving wrong. He's been blowing out of the park, competing with the likes of Harry Kane's and these top strikers. So, you know, he's impressing me. So I can't blame Ten Hag. Yes, the first 2 games were shaky, but other than that, we've been brilliant. We haven't conceded a goal in open play anyway, 6 games or 7 games now, if you include the last night's Europa League. It's looking good, but like I said, I think we do need to trust the process. However, I would expect at bare minimum a trophy, a domestic cup trophy this season.
You worried
The
about
good thing you were
the...
saying about signings was that I know they got Casemiro, but 2 of the signings he bought came from Ajax with him, in Martinez and Anthony. So he's gone and got players that he knows. Arteta went and got Jesus and Zinchenko. Like they're working with players that they know will buy into what they believe. So that I think that's the key. And with him, you can see, like you said, Man Utd, they're improving like week on week now from losing 4-0 to Brentford. Like you look at it now, you never know. Under the other managers, you never knew what the result was going to be. Like they would win one week and then look a completely different team next week. But you can start to see like what he wants from them is coming out. So I think they'll be there like around the top 4 race as well. But yeah, it's just tight. Like you've got to give these people time, especially when they inherited a squad that isn't theirs. They need people who will play how they want, and that takes time. Like you can't spend all the money in one window to get these players in.
No, I agree. I think that's what I want. That's what I want to see, and that's what I think Arsenal is showing that it can be done with Arteta. If Man United keep doing it, then someone like Graham Potter at Chelsea's got a chance to have a season or 2 embedding his team. And I think that's what you've got to do now, because I think the big clubs like your Chelsea, United, Arsenal, Tottenham, and all of them, they rotate their managers so much that you don't get that consistency. And like this top 4 malarkey, I'm not a fan of it in terms of it's like winning a trophy, but top 4 is important, but it's not. I listened on the way back home from work tonight and they were saying like, and I'm not just saying it because of West Ham, but like, will West Ham have a better season than say Tottenham if West Ham win the conference, the Europa Conference, and finish something like 8th or 9th, and Tottenham finish out of the top 4? Who has the better season? Do you know what I mean? Or even if they finish in, you know what I mean? So it's like Tottenham have gone. Tottenham are trophyless for years. Do you know what I mean? And it's like what the Sanford says. I think if they get it right with Man United with their current manager, but you still want to win a domestic cup, because I think that's what saved Arteta a couple of times. Didn't they win the FA Cup?
Yeah, they beat us in 2020.
So I think that's key though, is that to win a domestic cup, not every year, but every couple of years, just to keep you there, gives you that little bit of extra time, you know, because yeah, they should be. But this winning top 4 isn't a trophy. I know Arsene Wenger got away with counting it as a trophy for about 20 years.
Anytime Wenger was on the brink, he will also pull out an FA Cup as well, like that in his latter stages.
But they stuck with it. So, but anyway, yeah. So Arsenal, I think, getting back to your original question at the beginning, Sion, I'll jump in before Mike says, although Mike's more or less said it. I think a lot of people are saying if Arsenal are at the top before the World Cup or as the World, then we're believing them. If Arsenal are top of the table as the World Cup starts, I'll have a bit more trust that they might finish actually in the top 2, let alone the top 4. Because I think other teams have lost too many games, or there's not enough games for them to catch up, if you know what I mean. And I don't see Arsenal are strong enough now not to lose odd games. You know, they got to play City twice, but I have a feeling that even if they got 2 draws out of that, that's good. You know, So I think if they're top, I think I might start believing that Arsenal might even finish in the top 2, let alone the top 4.
All right. We'll just briefly go back to Man United before we go into West Ham. James Razanthan, just like obviously the 2 extra games now next year with the like Europa League. Obviously, I think you're playing every midweek next year, apparently, at the moment, unless obviously, depending on the domestic cups, might free up weeks. Obviously, you have to play the Leeds game, obviously. So you worried about like burnout? I know I've sort of seen starting to get a bit tired. Obviously, injury-prone players as well, like Martial, obviously Varane. You worried about sort of next year, or like is there greater emphasis now on like January transfer window, for example, to sort of bring in some reinforcements?
Definitely, this transfer window will definitely see how much the owners back Ole. I mean, sorry, not Ole, Ten Hag, because it is going to be very congested. Got idea that we have to play 2 extra games, but like I said to you earlier off camera, if we get a top quality Champions League side like Barcelona or maybe even a Juventus, I'll happily take it. You know, it'll make it even more credible if we do go on to win that campaign. It'll just make that victory sweeter. Yeah, like I said, I think if anything, I would like to go out all out, like how Liverpool did, and see how we do. Even if we do get burnout, I just want to see how we can cope with the congestion of the fixtures. It is going to be very busy, but if we want to be competing with the likes of Man City, you got to remember Man City have a B squad that can compete with the top 4, and that's the kind of level that I want United to get to. We should be able to play a B team in our Premier League games again, the bottom half, win it, and then know that, okay, we can play our A team in the Champions League, whether it's around the 16 semi-finals, quarterfinals, whatever round it is. Definitely, we need to get a backup striker. And also, you got to take into account the factor of how far do these teams go in the World Cup. I've already said it out, I think, on a previous podcast. I don't see England getting past around the 16. So I think the English players would probably come home soon. The French players, I think Martinez, I think Arsenal, Argentina or Brazil, I think they're most likely favourites to win it. They've got the good squad, good depth. So it looks like one of those 2 will probably go the furthest. I'm worried about how tired they will be when they come back, but it all depends on how far the teams go in the World Cup and whether or not Ten Hag wants to rotate for which competitions he feels like he wants to go for.
James, West Ham?
Well, West Ham, I just want to pick up a couple of things about the World Cup and all that, because West Ham could have like Declan Rice going off to that and a few other players from other countries. I think it's going to be interesting because I'm hearing all sorts recently about, you know, behind closed door games will be taking place for those squad players that are staying and all that. I don't agree with the Sam. I think England will go quite far in the World Cup. I think somehow, I just think they could have a bit of luck and go, you know, quarterfinal, semi-final, possibly, depends on the rounds. But with West Ham, I just think it's going to come at a good time. We've got a couple of key games coming up. We've played 3 home games this week. We've got like Palace on Sunday, then the following Saturday is Leicester, but in the middle of that we've got Blackburn in the Cup. They're all at home. And I just think that, like, you know, West Ham started to pick up a couple of good results. They won a few games at home in a row in the league. Okay, they were unlucky against Man United on Sunday, just gone. I thought they deserved a point at least, but the United keeper kept a clean sheet for them. But I just think in terms of West Ham, the World Cup, I just think it's some of our players need a rest. We've bedded in our new signings now, and it was good to see last night a lot of our academy played last night in that final round of the Europa Conference group stage, which we could do, and we still managed to win 3-0. And we had a couple of youngsters there, like 16-year-old and 18-year-old, you know, making their debuts. So it'd be kind of good to see if we can get a few friendly games during that period for the players that stay. But yeah, we just have to wait and see in terms of who goes to the World Cup, which I think we'll talk about in a minute. These next, you know, I think the weekend should be the last weekend because I'm worried about certain players. Are they going to be committed in the Premier League right up until, because they'll be worried. There's so many players going down with injuries. It's be interesting to see what type of squad any club takes to the World Cup.
Like just a quick question. Obviously I don't know this sort of, I haven't been watching the Europa Conference League. Are West Ham the favourites for this tournament? Like genuine chance of
this
winning
is where
it?
Mike, I know this is your first podcast. This is where Sion gets a bit comical now.
No, I'm not. I'm literally asking. I don't know. Listen,
or whether
I don't know.
he's just taking the mick.
No. I'm actually genuine question. Serious question.
Chelsea
I'm
could
saying
be
because I don't know who's in it. I'm saying like, are you guys the favourites for this tournament? That's a
Chelsea
serious
could
question.
be there. I would imagine we will be one of the favourites. I think you might have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think Lazio may have dropped down into the conference because I think they finished third.
They finished third.
Europa League.
Ah.
So I think they may have dropped down or something like that. And I don't really see any other club. Like people were saying we were in a tough group. You know, we had former Steaua Bucharest. We had a Danish team. I can't even remember what they were called. And we had Anderlecht, but we seemed to walk it. You know, 6 wins out of 6. So I'd imagine we would be one of the favourites. But the beauty of it is that unlike Man United, which is a shame because I think they were only 1 goal or 2 goals away from finishing top of their group, we haven't got that February fixture. So we're already in this last 16. So we can see who plays in that playoff stage and then take it from there. But we won't know who we play because they do the draw just for the playoff. And then the draw for the last 16 will be in February, I think, when that second leg's played. So, but I don't care if we're the favourites. I think we get to the semi-final, and with a bit of luck, we might get to the final this year, which I think is what we deserve. And you know, Moyes has got it right. He's blended in the young players. He's given minutes to players that need minutes because they can't get in the first team for Premier League action. And we're looking quite strong. So if we are the favourites for the Europa Conference, then we will be. But I'm sure Sion will be watching it in a few years when Chelsea are in it.
So, no, I'll be honest. I'll probably watch the final. Like I watched even
who
when we won the Europa.
Who won the Europa Conference last?
Who
won the Europa Conference last year? You know who won it last year, don't you? Roma.
Was it a competition last? Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, Roma. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Who was the manager of Roma?
Mourinho, my ex-man.
Yeah. One of the best managers in the world.
Yeah,
and he won.
No, but what does that mean? It's a conference league, man. Like that doesn't give the competition credibility. Give it a few more years, and then maybe.
But when Chelsea are in it,
we're not going to
be. Change his tune in a few years. Mike Gibby saying, "Oh, the Europa Conference is one of the best. It's one of the best." Chelsea have won 5 trophies.
I'd rather go trophy list than win that. If I'm being honest.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah. But moving on. Chelsea battered away at Brighton last week, deservedly so. Potter obviously returning back to his former club. It was always going to be a tricky game. We 2 goal line clearances sort of in the first 5 minutes before Brighton even scored their first, and then when they go 2-0 up, Loftus-Cheek own goal from like literally volleying, slicing the ball into like top corner of his left foot. That was game over. I knew we weren't coming back. Up and down season, still like we win some, we lose some. We won in midweek against Zagreb in the Champions League. It was an okay performance, but not even the greatest. And yeah, obviously Arsenal coming to Stamford Bridge on Sunday. That's going to be a tough game. Probably the first time in a while I'm actually we've had sort of better teams than Arsenal, but they find a way to beat us. But this time I actually feel like we're underdogs going into the game for first time in years.
Are you at home? We're at
home. Yeah, we're at home. It's at Stamford Bridge. Yeah. But it's sort of the first time where that I'm actually sort of worried. Like Arsenal, they've been miles better than us this season. Like what we've done sort of in the past, that's irrelevant. Obviously, right now, right here, right now, they're better than us going into that game. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game on Sunday. But yeah, our inconsistencies continue, and yeah, obviously, I'm waiting for Potter to we get to the January transfer window. We need to start thinking about obviously Kante, Jorginho, these sort of players coming to the end of their time. Kante, he's obviously missing the World Cup. He's injured until I think February. So it's probably going to be his last season. We need to think about sort of reinforcing that midfield, especially, which is sort of aging. Silva, obviously, this is probably his last season. So he needs replacing. So yeah, we've sort of got work to do in terms of, from now till January to sort of try and put a winner on together to sort of stay in that hunt for top 4. And then, yeah, we go again next summer. But yeah, no, this season, in terms of obviously Arsenal and Man City are long gone from us now. So we're not going to be sort of doing anything great in the league. So my best chance of a trophy will be sort of the domestic cups, to be honest. We've got Man City away in the Carabao Cup next week. So that's the last draw I would have wanted. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's sort of latest at Chelsea. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
Well, would Chelsea and Potter, the manager, yeah?
Yep.
Would he attract players in January, do you think? Or would they rather come just because it's Chelsea?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I do think because of his style of play, what he's done sort of throughout his career, like with his sort of progression from obviously managing in Sweden, Ostersunds, I think it was Swansea in the Championship, because of his progression as a manager. Obviously, he's not the big name. He's not like a Pep, for example, like who's sort of legacy cemented. I do think he'll be able to attract players. Maybe starts off as like lesser names first, and then obviously depending on how well he does, hopefully, Todd Bowley, obviously he's employed him, so he needs to give him time, and then hopefully naturally with winning, if we can progress, win trophies, and obviously maybe build a dynasty, then in the future maybe you can attract bigger names. But maybe to start with, sort of not similar to Ten Hag. Ten Hag's obviously won trophies at Ajax, but obviously the Martinez, none of us really knew much about him. So he sort of starts off with that sort of level of player.
So here's a quick question. Here's a quick question, right?
Yep.
And we know the obvious answer to one of them would be Declan Rice. So if you had to buy one player from West Ham, Declan Rice. If you had to buy one player from Man United and one player for Arsenal to help Chelsea, who would it be?
Ooh, for me, Arsenal, it will be Partey for me. The difference, like in terms of the midfield, you see when sort of a Lokonga's in there, for example, and Partey, if he's injured, you saw the sort of drop off against United, catching them on the counters. I think if Partey was there, not saying it can't happen, but you sort of saw the difference when he wasn't there. So from Arsenal, it will be Thomas Partey, maybe Saka, sort of a close second.
No, you only got one. You only got one player.
And from Man United, you put me on the spot here. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, but all right. While you're thinking that, my point is Potter enough to convince Declan Rice? Is he enough to convince Declan Rice and Partey to leave their clubs to go to Chelsea?
Well, Partey.
I don't think he is. I don't think he is.
I think Rice, but I don't think Partey. Partey won't leave Arsenal.
But Rice won't go for Potter. He'll go because it's Chelsea.
Yeah. I agree. Probably, I agree with that. But Rice would have been former.
So at the end of the season, Theon will be celebrating a top 4 finish as a trophy.
I never celebrate top 4. I don't celebrate top 4. I don't literally.
You will do at the end of the season, but it's the only thing you've won.
Well, listen. When we had a transfer ban.
Anyway, so if West Ham win the Europa Conference, West Ham win the Europa Conference, and Chelsea.
Listen, for our viewers, for all our viewers, we had. When Lampard came, no transfer window. We got top 4, and I didn't celebrate. And I didn't celebrate.
Lost a few games, yeah. Anyway,
no,
from Chelsea.
No.
Chelsea.
Listen, well, guess what? Well, it's perfect because we're previewing the fixtures, and we start with the big one, Chelsea Arsenal. So it's still Chelsea. So
West Ham Palace.
You can sit down.
Chelsea. Right.
Mike, Chelsea Arsenal on Sunday. Your thoughts on that game, and what do you think the score is going to be?
So I think score-wise, I think it'll be 2-1 Arsenal. Sterling always seems to score against us. And no matter who he played for, Liverpool, and we went to Man City, anyone to score is always going to be him. I'm hoping Aubameyang has a bad game because, like, all the talks he's come out, like you've seen, sorry Arsenal fans, but I'm a blue now. It's like, just let the football on the pitch, let yourself on the pitch, you're talking. Like, you score the goal, if you're going to win the game, like, score it, do it on the pitch. Like, you're just going to round the fans up even more. So I think like the way Chelsea are playing, you never, like you said, they lost to Brighton. They won midweek. But I'm hoping with especially the back line, like if Aspilicueta's playing, the injury to Chilwell, Thiago Silva, I'm hoping like the pace we've got going forward can be enough to like get a couple goals. Because last year was 4-2 win there. I think the year before that was 2-1.
1-0, I think. Was it Smith?
It was 1-0. 1-0 Smith Rowe. It was 2-1 the year before that when Smith Rowe scored again. Aubameyang the year before that. But it's like the last couple of years, it's been a good place for us to go. But yeah, I think I don't want it to focus too much on trying to keep Aubameyang quiet because for us, it's always been Sterling. But it depends on the system Chelsea play because that's why he was playing wing back yesterday, Sterling. It's like you put him further forward than that. So yeah, it depends on how they set up. But I'm confident more than I was last year. We won 4-2, so I think 2-1 Arsenal. I think they just got too much going forward for Chelsea at the moment.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 1-1. Tough game. And deep I don't think we actually right now have enough to beat Arsenal. Obviously, you can have home advantage maybe, but I'm gonna go 1-1. James.
Well, I think Sion's just being clever here. So I'm gonna go 0-0. I think it's gonna be a waste of a game, really. I think it could be 0-0. I think both teams, if anyone would win it, it'd be Arsenal, but I think Chelsea will play well, but they will lack that finish. And I think they're they won't enable Arsenal to go on the counter or anything like that. I have a feeling it could be 0-0. I don't want it to be. I'd rather it be like 3-2 to Arsenal, but possibly 0-0.
Is that fun?
I agree with Datsun. I think Chelsea have no attacking threat right now, as it seems. Arsenal are just too in form, but again, it is away and it is Chelsea, so some things do go out the window. But I'm going to go for a 2-0 Arsenal win. Arsenal are just too much in form, too much momentum. They've got a great attack, and obviously it's a London derby, so I think the Arsenal players are going to give it their all. And when form tells you that they've won past their two games against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, everything's just going their way right now.
Right. So the one sort of neutral game where none of our teams are involved, Spurs Liverpool. We'll start with James.
Spurs Liverpool. You ready for it? 3-1 Liverpool. I think Liverpool are just going to come out all firing. I think Tottenham will bottle it. I still believe in them. I think Tottenham are going to bottle it, and I think they'll score, but I just think they're not firing on. If they've lost Son again as well, I think they've got quite a few injuries at the moment, Tottenham. So I'll go 3-1 Liverpool for me.
I'm gonna go the other way around, not scoreline, but I'm gonna say 2-1 Spurs. I think Liverpool, after they sort of beat Man City, I said, okay, like if they can put the run together now, but after losing to Forest and Leeds, I genuinely think Liverpool, this is their Chelsea 2015-16 season where like you're stuck in mid-table, you can't put a win of runs together, and by the time you realize it, the season's done. I'm gonna go 2-1 Spurs. Mike?
I think I'm gonna say 2-1 Liverpool. I think the win over Napoli midweek is going to be big for them. I know Tottenham come back; they qualified top late on, but Son, I saw today he had surgery today, so he could be missed. And then they were saying there's no Richarlison, no Romero. So I think all that coupled together, I think Liverpool on the back of Napoli. Tottenham, I think as well. They don't know what's going on. Like Conte isn't good for them. With how it is, it's too negative for them. And which, as an Arsenal fan, I'm happy with. I think 2-1 Liverpool. I think they might just do this because it's a big game for them, and then we'll see. But 2-1 Liverpool, I say.
Was that fun?
Personally, I would love Liverpool to win 3-0, but realistically, I'm gonna go 3-2 Liverpool. I think yes, Liverpool are out of form. They're not the greatest as they were last season, but just hoping, it is a big game, a big 6-point game against Tottenham. Tottenham, they seem to be, doing well. I know they should have lost last game against Bournemouth, but they managed to scumbag a 3-2 win in the last minute. And Son's out, I think, for sure, with some eye surgery. Richarlison might be all set out. So things are kind of looking towards Liverpool's odds. So I'm just hoping a 3-2 victory should seal it for them.
Sticking with you, Aston Villa, Man United.
I'm going to go 2-0. I think we're still going to keep a clean sheet. I think we'll score 2 goals and then we'll call it. I think for me, my main focus will be definitely the Carabao Cup, just because of the fact that when you have such a game like Man City and Chelsea, one big top 4 team is already out of the Carabao Cup, which is a big blow, but great news for other teams like United, Arsenal and West Ham that might be wanting to go and win that trophy. Realistically, it's a must-win game for me. Our run of games up until now, until Boxing Day and after the World Cup, we're always burst in bottom half games. And so if we win all these games and Tottenham drop points, we can be potentially third going into the World Cup, which I'll happily take.
Mike?
I'm going to say 1-0 Villa, only because it's the new manager. We all know when a new manager comes in, and it's going to be Emery's first game. So I think, you look at it, they always the first game after Gerrard got sacked, they won 4-0. And we know Emery, even though it's meant to be attacking football, it's like a defensive press. he sort of sets up. So he sets up for you to not beat him instead of him coming to beat you. I think they might just like nick it late on with Man United trying to force themselves on the goal. So they got the pace going forward with the counter. So yeah, 1-0 Villa.
James?
Yeah, I was thinking the same until when I found out it was at Villa Park. It's at Villa Park, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was thinking the same, that like I don't see Villa losing the game. Whether they've got enough to win it and hold on. So I might even go a draw, sort of 1-1, 2-2, something like that. So I'm thinking a draw.
I'll keep it quick. I'll go 2-1 Man United. I think it'll be a close game. West Ham Palace, James.
Oh, it's interesting, right? We play Palace, and then, like I said, the weekend before the World Cup, we play Leicester. So they're the most two inconsistent teams in the Premier League, I think. Palace, you never know who turns up. They do reasonably well at the London Stadium. They're quite a tough nut to crack. We have beaten them a few times there. But I think West Ham will be on a high, and I think the fans will be on a high. It's at the London Stadium. So I think if we can nick an early goal, I think we can go on and win it. Something like 3-0, something like that. So I'm going for a West Ham win, possibly 3-0, 3-1.
I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham. Resanthan?
I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham as well.
Mike?
Yeah, I think at home, I was going to say 2-1 West Ham as well. I mean, I love the era, but like I said, Palace, it's the inconsistency there. So I think West Ham 2-1 at home.
We got a full house. We got a full house at last.
All right. Any last thoughts before we wrap up from anyone?
Well, I think we just got to pray that Declan Rice don't get injured, or England will be coming home early.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you all again soon. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.